Okay, I think we're going to get started. There's still some people coming on, but I think let's get started today. And our first speaker, as you will see, is Henry, who is our PhD student. I hope, Henry, that you enjoyed the discussion. As you know by this time, we will engage. And if we sense that you're not engaging enough with the colleagues around the table, then we will facilitate some engagement. But I think we want to start off by almost asking Henry, as a PhD student, to tell us a little bit more about who he is and where does he come from. Henry, by way of introduction, want to share that with us?
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
My name is Henry Bosa. I come from FNB, grown up in Uganda. I've been involved in IT and project management for the last 20 years plus. I've worked with the Standard Bank and FNB, initially as a project manager, then the application development manager, and currently as CIO for payments, IT payments in FNB.
So, no, that's not enough. So tell us a little bit, so why would you have chosen to be so much engaged in the technology space itself?
My passion basically is grounded in simplicity. I want to make things simple, better, faster. Why banking and technology? Well, I work for the bank for the last 20 years plus. I'm in an IT, information technology business unit. So my passion is basically to make sure I make things better for everybody within IT and in the industry.
So I was wondering, Marty, do you assume therefore that he played with a lot of technology as a child? What do you think you formed that?
I think the interest is there, and that is his reality at the moment. Your ontology?
So from an ontological perspective, the passion to make things simpler and better is there. But I also believe that we're all subjective. So taking a subjective approach, my research will not just take that and have subjective or everybody subjective, the same matter of fact. But I need to counter that with my research and design methodology to make sure whatever I come up with is basically proving what the reality is. So in this research topic and title, I'm going to be dealing with projects, IT projects, consequences and causes of IT project failures. So I'll look at that. There is a lot of causes that lead to projects fail. But I'm going to subjectively select a few of those which contribute the most to the problem and focus on that. So that is being subjective, and then see what value we get.
So you've got an idea that there's failures and you're interested in solving them. All right. Tell us a little bit about your epistemological view on how things work. How do you perceive the reality around you in general?
Basically, IT and banking, that's the focus of the research. When I look at it, my environment is what stakeholders, the bank itself as a company, customers, our clients, staff members. What is in for them? So the focus will be to research and find out how does banking and technology basically benefit those people. So what is the meaning of banking to these stakeholders? In the simplest way, from my technical background, I want to make life better for everyone. So using banking, when we look at banking, we can simply categorize it into four major groupings. Shown my supervisor here can help me. But basically, why do you do banking? Four categories. Transaction banking. You can save and insure. Investments.
Transact.
So those are key areas for which banking provider. That's why everybody goes to the bank. Traditionally, the banker would be looked at from a safe custody point of view. Everybody wants his stuff to be safe. Traditionally, it was in order to steal something, you have to break it in the bank. So the bank was measured in how safe that vault was. Today, banking is more about information and security.
All right, I want to stop for a moment here. So I can't see your name. Lionel. Do you sense that he's making an assumption that banking is good for people?
Yes, I think he is, in the sense that do people have to bank? I mean, if you have a look at in different countries, you get a lot of, particularly our countries, a lot of unbanked people. So I think you're making an assumption that everybody wants to bank.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might do the old Chinese working in under the mattress, that's the bank, which needs no IT. People feel safer when having safes on these things. Like in some
So
Muslim
I wonder
communities.
what informs his assumption that banking is necessarily good. Do you think he was asking?
Yeah, I mean,
So basically, when I look at banking, if those are the key things that you get from clients, if banking and IT works very well, you get benefits. As a bank return on investment, we good competitive edge. You will be number one, ahead of all the competition. FNB, as you know, has been nominated the most innovative bank in the world, and the background of that is IT. So that's where I'm going with the interest in IT. How do I simplify things better to keep that competitive edge? For our customers, clients, we will get enduring, rewarding relationships.
So you're not critical of the concept of banking, which is okay, but I just want to clarify that for the purpose of this research, you're not critical of the concept of banking. You're just looking at how can you enhance banking.
And keep the competitive edge. But if on the other side, IT doesn't work, then you will not be getting all those benefits. The South African economy is one of the stakeholders. You do not attract investments. Banking is very important in terms of investments and development. The government, in terms of its expenditure and taxes and all that, it will be inefficient. Banking won't be accessible. Money is free. It will be very tough. You cannot bank 24/7 anyway. So technology is core to making this experience happen. If it fails, none of those benefits will be realized. So then that leads me to research as such. When we talk about banking, it's not only local. Looking at the perspective globally, that means developing and developed economies. When we look at projects, from literature review and research done before, the causes and the problems faced by IT projects and the causes for failures are more or less the same, no matter whether it's a developing economy. So I narrowly focus on using FNB as a case study, but the solutions, I don't see any reason why they cannot be generically applied to the industry, in country, and economy. So that is basically the grounding of what I'm looking at. Narrowing it down, because I'm going to look at all of the different problems we have in projects. Subjectively, I've narrowed it down to a few that you want to implement. So what is the problem that I'm looking at? I'm looking at the problem. What is this real problem that leads to failures in project performance? Looking at literature review, looking at giants who have done a lot of research in terms of IT projects. There are many, but not vital. So the vital one, I've made an assumption that is the delay in project flow time. And that is the one major leverage point. If we sort it out, we will get the majority of the benefits. But there are causes, also known causes, that lead to delays in project flow time. What are those? So I'm going to inquire and understand the causes of these problems, specifically using quantitative research methodology, and specifically zooming in and using a survey. Now, why qualitative methodology? basically I'm dealing with a complex subject, IT. I'm looking at sensitivity in the information involved. IT is an IP. Not everybody will tell you exactly what they are doing. So to get it, you need to be able to engage with people and use different techniques to be able to understand exactly what is happening in each institution. And also the facts are not well laid down. So because of the nature of the subject, the complexity of the subject, I'm going to use a quantitative methodology, which according to Miles and Hogan, provides a way to look at causes and consequences of certain things and come up with stories which can explain and provide a meaning, a rich meaning that you cannot easily conclude or come to by using numbers. In other words, quantitative research methodology. So that is why I'm leaning towards qualitative and a survey in terms of questioning people and get that type of feedback by using questionnaires, interviews, and other tools focused groups in order to zoom into the complex subject and sensitivity of finding out exactly what the causes are. Now, from my analysis scope, I've got a picture of what is known as the major causes. Realization as a company has done a lot of work in terms of project, IT project management. There are known causes. So the first thing I'm going to do is to check within my environment, banking, do any of these problems exist? So that is the initial hypothesis. If they do, to what extent are they contributing to the problem? Once I've known that, I also look at, see, is there any other unknown causes in my environment contributing to the delay of projects? Delay being the major problem. Then if any, what is it that I need to do to reduce or completely eliminate that? So that will be part of the questionnaire and the findings out of the research. If there are any questions, please feel free to join in. So that is the way I'm going to do the inquiry in these causes and the consequences of IT failure.
Is that the way you're going to do it, or is that the way you intend to do it?
That's the way I intend to do it.
That sounds different.
A question to you. Are the technology needs and resources in developed and developing countries the same? And what impact do they have on your study?
Basically, when you look at technology, especially in the line of banking, I'll say it's more or less the same. Okay. When you look at what is it that a common man wants, it's ease of banking, access to banking. How does technology make that? The way of doing it is more or less the same. Okay. When you look at developed countries, Europe, for example, McKinsey just did a survey to say it's the digital age, and not many of the banks are digitalized in Europe. Therefore, they are going to miss an opportunity when new entrants come in and take away the traditional banking as it's known, if those banks don't change. So as an IT person developing IT solutions for banking, I don't see a difference between developing and developed economies in terms of that. So it's more or less the same. But the problems you are faced as a developer or an IT person are more or less the same. But I'm looking at what are those major ones, big leverage ones, and focus on. So that's the type of research I'm going with. I'm not going to go and look at all problems that can exist, but it's looking to this vital few.
But then can I reflect on that? It's almost if you make an assumption about this. If you say you're going to follow a qualitative research approach, won't it potentially add value if you allow the research process to give you that answer? Because you're almost quantitatively deciding on existing research that maybe the difference is not that big. and therefore you're just looking at the major leverage points. But I like the questioning because it can add a richness to your qualitative engagement. And I'm even want to think, Dr. Gumbi, that maybe the difference is not necessarily between the developed and the developing economies, but maybe within those economies, amongst different sector banks,
Sure.
you may get differences. Henry, if you want to comment on that? Or does that make it too complex?
There are differences, definitely, just as the definition for developing economies. Although many countries are put as developing, these different stages at which these countries are, same as Ghana. For example, FNB, which is my case study, we operate in many countries. South Africa, India, a few African countries, and now going offshore as well. When you engage and look at how things work, you will find the differences, especially the human factor. That will be something that will vary a lot.
Just to end up on that discussion, it will be very interesting to see which has the greater uptake, whether pull from the market to say we demand this technology and push from FNB to say we think the market needs this kind of technology, and how that technology pull-push dynamic has an impact on project failure.
Sorry.
Yes.
There's something that going into the future, I believe that going into the future we won't have cash anymore. We won't be having notes as we know them. I think it will be electronic. How are you going to cater for that? Because that's technology. Because, with cash at the moment, there's a lot of fraud. People are forging notes, etc. People are using dirty money to bring back into the system. A lot of African countries, and I mean even European countries, Americas as well, that have got all these notes that are floating around which they're trying to bring back into the system. I believe that sooner or later we're going to be either working through cell phones and doing our transactions that way. No cash will exist.
So I like what Rocco is doing now because he's trying to derail. But let's see how you allow yourself to be derailed from your research. So, do you want to answer him?
Basically, the core of this research, IT and technology, basically looking at how do we simplify the lives of our clients. Modern banking definitely is not physical stuff anymore, money. It's about information. So what is key for you as a client? How do I develop a solution technology-wise that satisfies your needs? The key thing I look at is if this technology solution I'm providing doesn't work, you're in trouble. So the theme of the research is about effectively deliver IT solutions that work. From that perspective, security, customer wants to be safe that his information is not stolen by anyone. Before you have to break into that vault and get the money. Today you don't have to go to a bank at all and do it offline. That's the technology we're talking about. So how do I make sure I deliver solutions faster to counter that? Okay? That's the thing. If it takes me 2 years, it will be too late. I need to do it now, quickly, first time right. So that's the focus. What are the things preventing me from doing that? If I don't do it, I won't have a bank. The bank will not survive. If it's not secure, they break into FNB today, they steal your information, your money basically. You don't have a physical card inside your drive. The FNB will lose all its client.
Okay.
So the key to me is to deliver solutions quickly, faster, low cost, good quality, all those benefits. And I need to do that now.
Okay. So is the question about a paperless banking system relevant to your research on project implementation?
Definitely.
Okay, I'm not seeing the link. You don't need to answer me, but I'm not seeing the link. But I think it's an important question because often in the research journey, you get these, I will call them these curveballs. And I still want you to really reflect whether Rocco's question about paperless banking is relevant to your thesis around project delays in project implementation in the banking sector. Okay.
I just
Any
want
other
to-
questions, Marty?
I just want to support Henry there, because if he's working on information, IT is just a conduit. And you can do that through any other field, not IT, and that's what you chose.
Okay.
Just a question. I heard you mention that how secure a bank is. I want to differ, because if you have one, let's say all these chip frauds and stuff like that happen on the ATM cards, is that banking really secure? Is the technology secure? And the problem is a lot of the uptake from people in underdeveloped countries is that fear of that technology. If I put my money and use this card, can someone scam it? So what's the impact of that? Because I'm not too sure it's secure. The amount of fraud and stuff, money moving out of people's accounts, that's why a lot of the banks have a big fraud department.
So can I ask again, is Lionel's question about security related to your thesis on project implementation in the banking sector?
I will directly say yes, but not obvious. So we talked about technology and innovations. So when we talk about projects, they cover the whole spectrum. So some of the projects delivered by banks is to counter a type of fear, fraud. What are those projects? And how long does it take you to actually come up with a solution which stops people? From the current perspective, we've got EMV and chip cards. It's reduced it a bit. Not every project is EMV compliant. So those early takers will reap the benefits of those projects. It takes you, for example, we talk about what the FNB came up with a NAM. 2 years later, a big competitor opened up a NAM. So what type of value, what benefits did FNB get for that period before the competition were able to come up with a NAM? So those are the type of things which makes you the leader. And how do you deliver that? You need to perfect that. So the research is looking into how do I sustain that, and what is it that I need to do? What is preventing the competition from being at the public level? So,
Okay,
I
we'll explore it.
indirectly.
Emeka, I want you to think, I don't want you to answer yet.
Okay.
But I want you to answer me at some point, do you know what he's going to do? But I want you just to think.
Okay.
There's a question here, Shirley.
Actually, sort of it comes together in two questions into one. Do you think that there's any relevance in your research to educating the consumer education, in your implementation of your project? If you take into account that we're sitting in a very modern environment, but if you go into deep rural areas, there's generational, geographical, all of those issues, and the gender issues, traditional women roles and traditional male roles, etc., etc. Does that impact at all on how you view the success of your implementation of your project to make things simpler, better, faster?
I would say yes, because that is bringing innovation into the picture, but innovation per se won't be there unless technology is part of the driver of those innovations. So we need to look as a bank, the banking sector, we are using FNB as a sample, solutions we can come up with should be generally used by all banks. You need to be able to bring those solutions because people are busy. For example, we've got this pocket calls. It's one of the things where you don't have the traditional banking infrastructure in those rural areas. Because that's technology. If you've got that machine, it can be easily used anywhere. So those are just one example of what technology can do and how fast you can deliver that is key. Remember, the research is focusing into speed, how fast can you deliver the solutions, and how good are these solutions. So that captures the essence. And bottom line, if you go from a FNB or company perspective, if business depend on me, say I'll deliver that type of solution in 3 months and I deliver on time. That's what we're talking about. When we look at stats from failure rates of IT projects, this 50 to 70% of failures, and some of them are huge, but they threaten the survival of those companies. You invest so much money, at the end of it, you don't deliver on score. You wanted a white car when it started with the process, when it comes out of the pipeline, it's red. Those are the challenges of IT to meet business demands. The other component related to that is that business is coming up with a lot of requirements or needs that IT must satisfy. Can we meet the demand? Rest on us as IT people from business. How quickly can we deliver the solutions? If we don't deliver fast enough, quality stuff, we're not going to be there. That's the essence of the research.
So, Professor,
Yes.
just so my name is Sean O'Keefe, so I'm the field supervisor. I'm not sure whether it's my place or not to maybe just
ask.
comment or two. So within F&B, I mean, technology is one of our most important, in fact, our core enabler. But it does rely on business establishing the business case and the value prop for the market they're going into. So if business hasn't thought through the market they're dealing with and the value prop isn't relevant, and they put together a requirement off the back of that, the IT guys can be the most efficient and effective and the best project managers and the best business requirements they can code beautifully, but they deliver something to the market which hasn't got value. So I certainly think, I mean, it's dependent on business up front making the right calls around the right projects and right topics. And I guess 9 times out of 10, all things being equal, we get it right, we don't get it right all the time. But on the assumption that business takes the right calls around the business case, the value prop, then, you know, probably 90% of what we do is enabled by IT. And that's the whole project flow time. And if you want to make sure that those developers, when they're actually cutting code and building these new capabilities, whether it's the app or the bit of stuff we're doing up in Africa, you want that lead time to be as really short as possible, and the quality of what you deliver. You ask for a blue card, you get a blue card. It's on time to spec in budget. And I guess that's the sort of game that we're in the middle. And then just maybe the Africa point, we leapfrogging in Africa, so we can't afford to put 600 branches live, perhaps in Ghana, or wherever we're heading to next, which is extremely expensive. So you're going to start with the alternatives like phone penetration or mobile branches. So again, different markets dictate different solutions, but ultimately, most of those solutions are enabled by technology.
But Sean, if that's your comment, are you guys considering as part of this research that to incorporate the underpinnings of what constitutes project planning and business planning and implementation? Because I see you're almost identifying it as a dependent as a variable. That if the business planning and the project planning is not appropriate, then IT is stuck.
Yes, and it would certainly be one of those variables.
So I would assume that in one of your chapters, you will, Henry, talk to about business planning and a critical perspective on that, and project planning and a critical perspective on that, in building your argument before you get to technology. Okay, we've now said a lot. Emeka, what is he studying? What is his research?
Actually, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. I'm sorry I came late, and because I came late.
You shouldn't come.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I did not know for sure. There are a few things I picked on the line when you were talking about security, but somehow to an extent you dispelled the importance of the gravity of security in what you're talking about. That's number one, but I don't know. These technological products that are being developed in the banks and in other areas where you need to protect people's identities and all those stuff, they are not actually secure because the security agencies they have access to them. The CIA has access to them. National Intelligence Agency has access to them. Everybody. These people who are paranoid about who is going to destroy the whole world, they have access to our information, so they are not secure. You know, and because they are not secure, they are in the hands of some people who are just monitoring it. And because they are monitoring it and they know exactly what is going on. We have an optical illusion kind of impression that we have a secure system. So they are not secure because at the end of the day, by the time we finish this, we're going to hand it over to them. Okay, and they would monitor it. So that's number one. So we are not secure in access. Then number two, what you said is the speed of delivery of a technological system. In the banks, I don't know, probably something else. It's a competitive advantage you have over your competitors. So I don't know, you said something about 70% failure in technological.
50% to 70% failure rates has been researched, and the SKO standard rates. And the chaos report that has been there since about 5 years, for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
So let's say for the last 30 years, the research done around quality failure rates, IT quality failure rates,
Yeah.
ranges between 50 to 70%.
Okay.
So that is a very big number. So if you're engaging in a project like SAP implementation,
Yeah.
which costs almost, depending on the size, we're talking billions if it's an organization. And if that doesn't work and doesn't provide the benefits you're expecting to get, you're in trouble. So as an IT project manager, you've got to have a way to manage it successfully. But the success rates are very small.
Yes, but what I want to sorry, Prof. What I want to get here is that what is responsible for the failure rate, which is good, and is that what you're trying to address with your research?
Yes,
And what exactly is it?
the research will provide you with the answers. But basically, from the literature review, there are known causes that we can start with. And my approach is that I'm going to focus on a few that make the biggest contribution to this problem. Because there are few norms. For example, I stated the project delay. The delay in delivering projects, you lose a lot of time. And what is causing that? There are known causes. For example, people start without a full kit. What is a full kit? I don't have everything I need to start this task and finish it successfully. So if I'm in that situation, I shouldn't start. I must first gather, I've got sign-off requirements, I've got the resources to start developing, I've got everything I need, then I start. So when we talk about speed, I will be able to deliver that task in 2 days. If I don't, I start one day and I stop because I'm waiting for somebody to authorize something. Then I'm losing time. That is where I'm losing time. The second thing is multitasking, for example. Everybody thinks when I do many things at the same time, I'm more effective. But actually it's the opposite. You need to show that. So nobody can multitask. You can do one task or two, but you cannot do 3 or 4, 5 at the same time. If you do that, you are going to lose time. So from a speedy perspective, you need to go and say, my task manager, you assign this person one task at a time. When you finish one, then you start another. There is such around that. So that is what we zoom in.
So you are saying you are indeed looking at project delays.
Delays as the biggest problem.
Yeah. But if you just, Dr. Gumbi, I'll get to you now. If you are doing a survey, how are we sure that's going to be a PhD and not a master's? Because I think that's where you want to go to.
Yes.
And you don't need to answer us, but I'm teasing you with the idea. Because if you say you're going to look at the research that you're doing, you see certain patterns, you're going to explore it, probe it further qualitatively, yes, and I always want to say yes. But while you think of that, Dr. Gumbi, next question.
You started your discussion telling us about how great FNB is with technology in the banking space. You have an opportunity to look at the technology development value chain within FNB to identify their challenges and compare with what you've read in the literature. We have a tendency in some environments to say they are the ones that are at fault, not us. If we had all the resources, we would just, be able to develop the technology. It's not our fault, it's them who are delaying us. Check that and interrogate that across the value chain from the planning to the implementation, are there any blockages that are causing some of the delays in or problems in project failure?
See what I like about that, you're almost confirming that it's okay, it's fine for a PhD study that is interested in understanding the project delays, but then he must have a need to understand where all the project potential is, and not have a preconceived idea that it is here or it's there. But that through his probing, he must open it up So people must almost sense at the end that you've made a new contribution to additional suggestions on project delay in IT projects. Is that almost...
There could be new information,
New
that
information.
emerges from this research that no one else has come to.
But you have to open your mind to that. And I think taking a qualitative approach and probing, you can get to that.
Because part of the approach is that I've got a known process, I will test and see if they really exist. If they don't, then it's not a failure in terms of research. Prove it and do another problem. But if they do, you find solutions to it. But there are also that part which is unknown. So the research, the objective, the question, we go in there and say, you the experts, you've been doing this, is there anything that we don't know about that is causing us this problem? And it can be in the pipelining section of management, execution phase, or the ongoing improvement. We've done this before, but we don't have a database of, if it happens again, we know how to deal with it. So all three phases we need to look at, see how do we get value from it to contribute to this.
So what do you think? Yes, Joe?
Thanks. Well, I think maybe, my view, having represented a number of organizations that implement such projects, my take would be, from a high level, of course I haven't implemented those projects for FNB myself, that's why they failed. But actually, on a serious note, I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's actually a fundamental question to a number of issues that organizations are facing, because you invest such a lot of capital towards this objective. However, do you know what must you do in the future to avoid the pitfalls? And secondly, can you then come up with a framework that says, through this framework, I'm able to improve on the speed, validate the requirements, ensure that I meet the business or rather my customer demand for my requirements. So I'm more interested in finding you're not just working or rather, sifting out what the pitfalls are, but building this framework, this approach to project management to circumvent those failures. And I'm using this as a precursor to say, because that framework, I believe then should be a platform through which, future projects, could be leveraged, using that base as a platform and growing new solutions, fast and speed, to market is improved in that. So I'll be very much happy to assist where possible.
I think this is critical because I always want to ask you and Sean, will we see in your planning that you had a piece, a project, a chapter on a critical review on project planning and so forth, and management? Henry? Sean?
So I think, as we said earlier on,
Now, is there anything about that in your plan?
that's certainly one of the key variables in the process.
Okay.
Proper planning prevents poor
That's good.
performance. Yes, the perfect 5 Ps. But I think perhaps just to your point, I guess we're looking for those 3 to 5 really big, levers which can mitigate the risk of project failure. And the assumption is the bulk of these projects delivered by IT, just is this. And I guess that will give us that framework or 5 commandments or whatever you call it, which you can then sort of put in place in FNB and hopefully up the game further. So it's not the beginning, not wrong, don't get us wrong.
But I think, Sean, what I also hear is that you could also benefit by reviewing the notions of what is good project planning.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Because that may be the breakthrough, that you will make a contribution unintentionally on project planning.
Yep.
So that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, there was a question here. Yes.
Also, what about project implementation? I also come out of the industry with 3 to 5 years experience and different huge projects, and not all of them not banking necessarily, but huge ones. And it's the you have a plan, which is perfect, but to realize that plan is something very different.
picture is easy, the
The
execution.
picture is easy, the vision is easy,
Yeah.
but to actually realize it
Yeah.
and to adapt, because these things that happen in the process, it's stuff that you cannot predict. And then so your reaction time is the most important, to make quick decisions on what now. Because it's not a straight line,
That's
unfortunately.
right. And some of the topics we spoke really nicely, I don't know if you're addressing it. These are simple things like the people aspect, co-location. So when you've got 4 or 5 big technology teams that all have to work in concert to deliver a big project, but they're geographically located in different environments, it makes it incredibly hard, that flow of information. Whereas if you've probably experienced this, because if you co-locate those guys, there's no email, it's voice, and those are just the productivity and the time to market around solving for things are incredible. And that might be one of the...
And then to consider that in different developing countries, it's very different. That process of implementation is very different from what you most probably have in South
I
Africa.
guess the benefit though is if we're using South Africa as the platform to build the bulk of these innovations, and it's more around the training and the rollout, but you're designing and building it for local markets. So your IT resources found you are just sitting and build, and then it's more of a rollout in the country.
And the difference, the difference between a PhD and a master is, on master's level you can still set a framework and it may work. On PhD level you must have tested it already, and that makes a difference.
You want to comment?
Yeah. So for instance, I mean, there's so many methodologies you can follow. It could be the field model, it could be your sprints, and so many methodologies. So I think it would be interesting also to find out, do you believe, or rather, are you going into the research expecting to test which of these methodologies leads to more failures than the other, or is it purely, on a global perspective?
It's not a matter of testing methodologies. For example, Prince to sprints, no more traditional Campbell stuff. You're looking at the best from different ones and combine those, the best will come up with something new out of what is already existing. For example, if you look at organization, it's one of the top lines. If you're taking stuff from everywhere, but the software is using for project management. It's not even Microsoft project management type of stuff, but consulting, it's helping you to implement the best from Prince agile methodologies and all that. So it's another component of the software you need to be able to execute this. From that viewpoint, I'm looking at the best from different methodologies.
So you're opening your mind to possibilities.
I'm just 3 things.
Just to
Just 3 things. My sense is the research is very linear. It stops short of return on investment and the deeper issues around your market who has to receive the product. Therefore, it's built on a lot of assumptions. I'm presuming that you've already done all this research about what the market wants and needs. Therefore, you're creating this solution, and your research is focused on how quickly, what are the barriers to getting a project in an IT environment, a very contained, contextualized environment, quickly to market, and your market happens to be the FNB requirement to take an IT product to market. So I'm sensing it's built on a lot of assumptions, which I haven't had a clear sense. Is it built on assumptions? Has all of that research been done? Therefore, we need to have this technology solution very quickly, this innovative technology solution, and therefore it's already assumed that your market's ready to receive it.
I think that's a valuable comment. You don't need to respond in detail, but I think that's a very valuable comment, because I think Henry and Sean, that also will prevent it or differentiate it from being almost a project versus a thesis. And you can just, I think that's, I'll really take note of that comment. Thanks for that contribution, Sean. Emeka?
Yeah.
Are you more clear what it was?
Yeah, I'm getting an idea of what is about. When you said that you were going to assemble best practices from all over the world and put it together into something that will work, I think that might be like trying to build a model, a genius that performs a particular function, task. But you know, the thing with the best practice is that it doesn't give a chance for innovation. So if you assemble best practices, you lose the subtle, effective issues, and it might not actually solve that problem. We are dealing with a particular technological system that we are using. We call it a management information system. We are using it in something we are doing somewhere. So the problem with that system is because it was designed for a particular number of people to use it, and suddenly that number multiplied into 4 or 5 or 6, and that begins to crash at any point in time. So we don't know the problem that I'm still trying to get back to the problem you are trying to solve, your problem statement, the problem you're trying to solve with the thesis. So the problem with technology as it is, as we understand it today, is it probably is an engineering thing, or there's a newness, there's change. Okay? Change occurs, and you have to re-engineer what you had before. But the change occurs because there is need. A new need has emerged, and you have to incorporate it into the design. Okay? So by the time I don't know whether you'll be able to, this thing that gives rise to the change in technology, that gives rise to certain technology, it should not be able to serve the purpose. Are you going to capture it in the theoretical underpinning of your thesis? Because that is what is actually going to make it a thesis. Remember, it's going to be a philosophy, it's going to be theory. It's not just a project. So that is actually where I'm thinking what we're going to do here. How are you going to do it?
Okay, so can I ask just for a moment to reflect, Henry, what is happening in your mind as a researcher now when you hear a maker making these comments, who's gone through the same journey as you and concluded, and even the comment of Sherry? Can you share with us what's happening in your mind right now? Shirley's almost saying, be aware that it doesn't become a project. The maker's saying it needs to be a thesis and you must be careful for benchmarking, and what is the real problem? So what happens in your head right now?
This one is to look at open up.
Is that a bit of a frustrating experience?
It's expected as a type of feedback I want. Because just quickly say, I've not done all research yet. I'm just in the middle of literature review, not completed. So still early days. So this type of feedback is very helpful for me to say, look at what people say. How can that help me to get to what a thesis is?
So I almost want to ask, as a final comment, because we're running out of time, can you help Emeka, and maybe some others of us in the room, and just say in simple words, what is the problem you want to solve? You intend to solve?
So, in my environment, what, in summary, what we're struggling with is being able to deliver projects on time.
And that's almost enough.
Yes.
You struggle in your environment, which you can give details about, to complete projects, whatever they are, on time. And I would say that is important. I think you make a valuable contribution. Hold yourself to that. Because then I want to come back to the question that Rocco asked. And I always want to say he's teasing you. Don't go there. You can talk to him about money, paperless money again on another day. Right? Any other questions you want to ask us?
Basically, 2 or 3 things. I mentioned that I'm doing a survey. Do you think that's the right approach for me to use a survey to do this? Or must look at something else?
Anyone want to comment? Otherwise, I will. Yes, Simon?
Yeah, my name is Simon. When you talk about project management, I would like you to look at project management from 2 perspectives. Because you mentioned in your presentation that there are different types of banking that you do. You said 4 of them. Okay, when you look at project management, you must also take into consideration that you have 2 main clients, from the public sector and the private sector. Now, project management in the public sector is different from project management in the private sector. Now, my advice is, if you have to look at how to deliver projects effectively, quick and fast, as you said. We should try to understand the traditional approach of project management and see where failures come in and how your technology can be linked into that. Because at the end of the day, the question I would like to ask is that, is your research making a difference? And my answer from you should be yes. So that is my advice.
Yeah, good. Good for you in that regard. If I can answer you on the survey, and if someone wants to go, Simon, you want to come in on that? Simon.
Just in terms of the survey, maybe my comment is, I think it should at a PhD level not the best thing to put it on your title. It can be a survey that is not going to help, because a survey is just an exploratory thing. Right? You're not ending just by just surveying the land or just testing, that you're going beyond just the survey. So maybe just be careful.
So let's reflect on that. I think someone, again, it's valuable because a survey can just mean it can sound very open-ended, but, and I want to put it but, if you added in your methodological explanation maybe a more detailed understanding of what kind of qualitative approaches you're going to use, Simon, I think that could then ground the survey. Because I think the survey does have the potential, Emeka, that you referred to, that it can be coming up, almost you're just comparing things. At the lowest end, that's what a survey can bring. But that doesn't mean it's all that it can bring. And those of you who know me, if you, for example, took a grounded theory approach with your participants, you most probably will get a much richer survey engagement than you would have had by not using grounded theory. Because you get into coding of concepts and categories and themes which will add a richness to your interpretation. So to answer you, survey, but Martia, I will almost ask that you consider putting more technical methodological detail to the survey at a PhD level. Sean, does that help? Or am I confusing you?
No, good.
Is it okay?
Just
I think Henry is going there, but it's more complex than what he's now discussed. So it is going.
You might also do case study. Okay, you might do a case study to show these programs that have failed. Remember, you were telling us that there are technological programs that failed, project that failed. So those programs will be case studies to present those failures and why those failures come. Then, what you are going to contribute, perhaps through something you are going to do, is what you are going to find there to solve this problem that exists in this. That's the new model you are going to build. Did you get the point? Yeah. So you're going to do survey, assuming you know who is in possession of the appropriate person that is in possession of the information that you're looking for. Okay, you can find them and ask them questions and find exactly what they're talking about, or whatever. Then you're going to do case study of those and see what is deficient in the failed programs and how this deficiency could be solved in what you are actually doing right now. Do you get the point?
Yeah, and then again, if you do the case studies, as Shirley has experienced, case studies can be extremely rich.
Yes.
And it will help you at a PhD level if you can get a more at a granular level, a detailed level, how you interpret those case studies, because it becomes an overload of information. So you must almost search in the methodological folder, what kind of pathway can I follow to codify what I get in my information. You said you had two more questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Part of the approach is that I'm taking the known problems, the process of this project detail, and I'm testing that through the process of study, and also finding out new things that I did not start off with. Is that approach going to help me, or I'm asking to start with that from that position? Because I'm testing the hypothesis to say this is the starting information. We test it and go find out what else is unknown and then find solutions. And at the end of that, also be using the matrix clouds, basically to look and say, yes, this is a solution. But does it really, can it be adopted? Yes, because the bottom line is people might refuse to use these solutions. So that is the additional part of it. And how does these solutions get adopted? Is that the right approach? Or?
Anybody wants to comment? My sense would be you can look anyway. It's what you're comfortable with as the researcher. Coming from the known to the knowable, almost to the complex, that's fine. I would just hope you can conclude the full cycle and go into the chaotic. Go totally outside. So you come from the known, you move into the knowable, so you cover the ordered realities, and then you move into the unordered reality, as you said yourself, on complexity, but also move to chaotic, and then try to find the synergy amongst them all. So I'm comfortable if you take that journey. I don't know if someone else wants to add to that, Joe?
It's taking a different perspective. I would say defining what a failed project really means, and defining what a successful project means. Because I believe it will, have different contexts depending on who the client is and who the organization implementing is. Because there may be certain definitions that change based on what is perceived as failure and what is perceived as the success. So perhaps grounding it on the definition of what you see or what you define as the success or the failure, and then moving through the process of then doing the tests, as we say. I think that would perhaps add a different perspective to it.
I hope that you and Joe can connect. The thing that I want to tease you about, you easily speak about hypotheses, and then you talk about qualitative research. It sounds a bit of a paradox to me. Well, will you review that? Will you reconsider?
Yes.
You may just have an idea, because I sense America is almost just having an idea.
Yeah.
He's got an idea that projects are failing.
Yes.
It's okay by just having an idea.
It's just an idea, yes.
You don't need to have a hypothesis. Do you want to differ?
That is actually important in the construction sector where I am, there's a whole, about 50% of the project ends up being cut. And everybody is fighting who is right and who is wrong. So at the end of the day, it goes to what is called failure. We try to find a group of students, sometime ask them who wanted to do their almost discourse to submit topics. About 90% of them were talking about delays and failures. They will tell you exactly what is happening in the industry. So failure in IT, as it relates to bank, is not peculiar to it. It is happening in construction where I am involved. And I'm sure people I don't even know that it's happening in the past. So where are the banks not collapsing?
Jane, do you want to make a comment on the hypothesis and qualitative research? Or do you think they can work together?
I'll think about it.
Okay, and then
I
the
can
last
say
question.
that if I don't say hypothesis, I can say an idea of a starting condition,
Yes.
or an assumption.
Assumption.
Okay.
Yes. Free yourself. It's about what is real in your mind, and you don't need to be bounded by too many conventions. Let's remind ourselves in Da Vinci, it's really about you creating your reality. But when you use words, I'm going to speak to you in those words. Okay. You want to ask the last question?
I think we've covered my topic. Thank you very much. You're conducting you figure from me, please. And this is not an easy position to be in. I think coming here, all of us now in your family, I expect that support from you guys. Thank you.
Well, the beauty about it is that you chose to do your PhD, and that we all chose to be here, and we want to see you succeeding with that. So I hope that you at least make some connections today, and that by reflecting and hearing to what people are saying, that you could get some perspective. Okay. Any urgent last comment somebody wants to make? Shirley, as someone who just completed, any comment you want to make too?
Edit. And remember the page numbers with every reference.
Simon?
My just last comment is you need to reflect more on your contribution. Because you can see most of the questions have come from what are you giving
To the broader,
to the broader society.
Right. Okay. Henry, good luck for you and thanks for being here today.